Many of you are finding me, and you do know that my programs work because you see the winners. I haven't even had time to interview all of my winners. I have hundreds of new winners that I have not had a chance to talk to. Now, I don't talk to every last one of them, but I know who they are because they're in my community. So the reason that I love this is because I know that I have a talent for helping people like you to understand not just my system. I mean, it is my system, but it's not what people think it is. I mean, a lot of things you hear out there are true, but a lot of things you hear out there are half truths. Everything in business is about a system. It's about a process. It's about how you think. It's about not being afraid. It's about taking that next step. It's about learning how to win. And that's all I care about is you winning. Because when you win, I feel like I won. So, and you guys, if you've seen some of my videos with my winners, you know that I feel that way. Okay, so I've been doing this for a long time. I've been helping businesses for a long time. I used to help with state a lot, but I stopped helping with state because I feel that federal government is on our side. I know some of you guys may think that's a joke, but it's not. There's a reason why. And don't get me wrong, that's not every administration. That's this administration I'm talking about. I know that they're concerned about women and Black-owned businesses. Not that Hispanic and Asians are not also having, I won't say problems, because it's not that we're having problems, any of us, but with women-owned businesses, all women, and Black-owned businesses, we are not moving forward in getting these contracts. And I know what it is. We don't know what to do, or we're getting bad information. And these organizations out here that they think can help us, they cannot. And they do not on purpose. It's because they don't know. They're not me and you. They're not out here creating money from nothing. You and I generate revenue from nothing, literally out of thin air. We create money. How do we do that? We do that as entrepreneurs. All business people, all entrepreneurs do that. You got to start from somewhere. And this is not as difficult as people make it seem. That's what the big businesses want you to think. And that's why we have all of this stuff sitting out there. That's why, is because they want you to think it's so hard. And when I hear people, I don't hear it anymore. I used to hear people say, oh, the system is against us. That's not true. In some cases, it is true. All this, the political stuff you hear, yeah, you got people out there trying to divide us, trying to make us feel different, trying to other us, as they call it. But listen, when you are focused on making your money, nobody can distract you. Don't listen to that. This is not like people make you think it is. I know there's more encouragement now, but I will tell you on a state level, I don't discourage people from doing state, but I discourage people from listening to what those state people tell you. You can be a prime in federal, a big prime. You can be a big prime at state level. We have to teach each other and coach each other and mentor each other and support each other not to think small. Because this business right here, it's nowhere close to small. Nowhere close. It's crazy how big this business is, and we're included, all of us. So today, I want to help you to understand that you can build a real government contracting business. And if you have other things going on, like I do, even though I know I have some big balls in the air, but I've grown to this level of experience. It wasn't always like this. I'm a very detailed person. Sometimes I don't want to start doing one thing until I've finished another. And I still struggle with that sometimes because I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. And I always see where there's room to get better or room to grow. And plus, I come from big corporate. I know what a mess big corporate is. It's a mess. And government contracting is very much like that. People get upset because the contracting officers don't do certain things. And I tell them, you have to know, I need to up your where you are in your journey right now. I need to fast track you to the next level because you cannot depend on them. They are just like all of they're employees. All they're trying to do is buy stuff from you. They like you, they want you. The government contractors, I meant to say the contracting officers, they are having a field day with all of, as Richard would say, all of the mini Michelle Mees that are out there that are just like me and getting even better than me. Better than me. It's so impressive. And when I say better than me, I mean they're learning things about dibs that I asked them, how do you know that? I didn't teach you that. Because they're doing the work. Okay, and you guys know who some of my superstars are, but I just want you to understand that it's just a system, it's a process. When you follow the process, it works. When you have all of the information. I know for a fact, I would never have said this a year or two ago because I was as naive as a lot of people are. I know for a fact, I'm probably the only person that talks about these things that gives you all of the information. I don't mean in a free webinar because I can't do all of that. But in my courses, I do. I don't hide anything because, and I'm shocked at how some of these courses are. I've never really seen any, but I hear people, oh, well, I mean, it's just a few modules. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you explain anything, especially as complicated as this, in just a few modules? That's why my program is live because I miss things when I have someone that tells me, well, I didn't see this in the course, they usually won't say it, but I'm thinking when they're asking me, well, that must not be in there. Maybe I should put that in there. Because again, you guys help me help you, which makes us all very successful. Okay. So I don't believe in scarcity. I don't do they don't want us to win. Of course, there are lots of people that don't want us to win. There's a whole initiative right now to stop people like me and you, and I don't even think about it because I live in America, so do you. And as long as we don't break the laws, we can have whatever we want. That's how I see life. I've always been that way. Nobody can stop me from doing what I want to do. And believe it or not, my manufacturing has demonstrated for me that there are plenty of people out there that want to help me. And they don't look like me. They're not Black. They're all different people. I have a ton of white men that support me and what I'm doing because guess what? All they care about is making money. And if I'm smart and I can get it done, they want to be a part of it. That's how you need to think. That's how it is in America. We live in America. We could be somewhere totally different where as people, I hate this phrase, but people say, well, the struggle is real. It is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive to think that everything is always perfect, but I do know I was raised to believe, and I personally went to an HBCU. That's where I went to college, and that HBCU made me feel like I could do anything I wanted because it was an extension of how I was raised. We can do anything we want. And this system, it's for us too, and they're waiting for us. So I want to talk to you about you see this picture right here? This is a report that I ran, and it's just a picture of it right now, but it's a report that I ran to show you how much is just sitting out there. This is for one day, and I'm going to take you over there in just a second. I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to take you over to the live screen. I just cannot believe how much business is sitting out there with the federal government. It still blows my mind. And I put here that $650 billion is spent. People don't understand that is every single year. Now it used to be 400 billion, but now that COVID has happened, and I know because it's part of what I do, they're spending money in different areas that they were not spending money before. This administration is on a track to make sure that we start manufacturing in the United States, even if it's you, even if it means you finding someone else that you can work with to make your products. Once you start winning contracts, you're going to find that there are products out there that these large companies, they have their names attached to it, but guess what? They don't even care that our military needs these parts. And these are not just military parts. They are things that you and I buy: soap, shampoo, chairs, desk, office leases. It's everything that you and I use except more. Computers, everything except more. So the reason so much of this is out here is because there are not enough of us winning. There are not enough of us that know how to do this. This is not a coincidence. And there's not, some people say, well, I was wondering if maybe there's a reason why. Maybe it's because these products are not available. That is not true. Now, it could be true in some cases, but guess what? It can be made. It can be made. These large companies thought that they had the lockdown on the federal government, which, by the way, the federal government represents all of us, and that's our taxpayer dollars. And so why not help your country and make lots of money while you're doing it? I love it. When Obama was in office, that's when I started really listening. I made so much money while Obama was in office, but that's because I had the information and I knew what to do. I would sit and listen. I do that with every president. Well, I didn't do it with Trump. I thought he was going to do manufacturing. I did, but he didn't do it. But I knew Biden would because we were in a crisis. So I did like when Trump started talking about manufacturing. I thought he was going to do it. No other president has done this except Biden. He's the only one. And so he deserves, people don't understand because those politicians, those Democrats, they don't educate us enough. And it's very sad. It's too bad. So you should see my live screen right now. And my live screen is where I went to show. Now, this is a little bit less. Maybe some of those other opportunities actually were awarded, but this is 35,966 contracts. And this is just for one day. And it's only a handful. All of these codes, these are what we call FSC codes. We get a list of these codes. All of these codes represent products that contracting officers must buy, not want to buy, must buy. Okay, so they don't have a choice. They're going to get it from somebody. And a lot of these companies are just like, they feel like, well, if the government is not coming to I mean, I don't have time to go and do these things. Sometimes these hidden secrets like this, and this looks like a lot of codes, but it's really not. We have 5,000 FSC codes that allow us to do 5,000 products. Now, every one of them doesn't provide what I call longevity, meaning they're not buying it every single week, every single month. But most of this stuff, that's why it's here. You see, some of these dates are old. In DLA, we can still bid on old things. Now, if it's over a year, I tell people, contact the contracting officer and just ask them, do they still need it? But this is real life. This is crazy. And when I see people stuck in an area, especially if they're in my program, nobody in my program should be stuck. Nobody. And I mean that. And if they don't talk to me about it, then that's shame on them. And sometimes I know I'm not available all the time. I don't even allow people to do coaching sessions unless you're in my inner circle now. But if they're in the program, they can reach my customer service team, and my customer service team will say, let me see what I can do. And if they can't help them, if my client success advisor cannot help them, then they're going to talk to me anyway. We work as a team. Yes, they know I'm busy. They know I have a lot on my plate, but it doesn't matter. We want everyone to be successful. And if you're in my program, I'm not going to just leave you out there. So now if you're in the mentorship, yes, you do have more access to me. But the point is that there's no reason for anybody to be stuck. Nobody, when it comes to this. And was this difficult when the veterans came to me and said, there were a group of veterans, some of you may know this story, that, they came to one of my live training sessions and they said, wow, you really know this stuff. We're doing this thing called DLA. Can you help us? Do you do that? And I said, I don't do it, but I mean, if it's government contracting, I'm sure I could figure it out. I thought they were just whining and complaining. They weren't. This was kind of difficult to understand. But I had to do it to learn it. Nobody taught me anything about DLA. Nobody. I had to do it and fail. And I had to call it, because I don't believe in failure either. But I will say I had to next level up in every step of the process, because nobody, Apex, they're now called Apex, TPAC, or PTAC, or whatever they were called. And of course, the SBA. The SBA doesn't help us win. That's not what they do. They just help us get certifications, if that. So you need to understand that this is not it is complicated, but I make it where it's not complicated. So if you wanted to do this, even if you didn't want to do it with me, you can do it. There are just a lot of little big things that trip people up. So I just want to show you something. So we're talking 35,000 contracts just sitting here. You see, big, small. I'm still fascinated by this. And I've been doing this a long time. I don't even do the dibs much anymore because I'm doing DLA bigger. DLA is also in SAM. And when I say bigger, I mean DLA has other service types contracts for like warehousing, management of their products. That's the stuff I do, medical management. But there's medical in here. When I found out, I was winning federal contracts on the SAM side when it was called FBO, and I was winning under pharmaceutical. And then I came over here when the veterans asked me to teach them this. I came over here and found out, oh my God, they have everything over here. Now, the deals for medical a little bit smaller, but there are usually thousands and thousands that come up on a daily basis. And even some of the large companies were trying to be in on these small deals just so they could block people like me and you. But it's not working anymore. It's not working because people like me and my community, we figured this stuff out. And I'm not going to take all the credit. Am I the one that led the way? Yes, I am. I figured out a lot of things to keep us from being blocked. I did. But guess what? My soldiers and people like you that I put out there, they know things and found out things that I didn't know. I don't know all of these industries, but the reason I'm showing you this is because I want more people to get in other industries. Look at this 2590. I wonder how many opportunities are just sitting there under 2590, 2530, 2510. They're just sitting there. And they're going to sit there until the contracting officer says, we don't need that anymore. We got a different product. So I just want you to see this 35,000. I just did this for one day, and it's not even all the codes. It's just codes 5945 to 4920. So how does a person decide where they want to focus? Well, you have that list. I'm going to walk through all of the steps with you and you'll see what I mean. But you have the list that the government gives us. Now, we have a list that allows you to, we cleaned up the list that the government gave us and we matched up the NACE codes with the FSC codes. Why? Because some people are starting sooner than later, meaning maybe you just got in SAM and maybe you don't know, what your code should be. So you might pick, and a lot of people start their SAM without FSC codes because they don't know what it is. They don't know what it does. Some of them know what PSC codes do, but PSC codes are very similar to FSC codes. PSC codes just have letters. Say FSC codes never have letters, and that's because the government owns FSC codes, the government owns PSC codes, the government owns not NACE codes, but they own this NSN number. But commercial market owns NACE codes. Those are the only codes everybody knows. Well, I gotta have a NACE code because you could do your SAM with a NACE code, but without an FSC or PSC code. But you know what you're doing to yourself when you do that? The buyers can't find you. All of this is about you finding the buyers and the buyers finding you. How do the buyers find you? You show up. If they need this valve right here, let me move this up. You show up. You're like, wow, I want to look into this 2990 FSC code. And you know what I teach you? This is not just one product. This is multiple products. They could have the same first four digits, but they're different products. All of these are different products. Some of you know this, but some of you don't, if you're new to this. It's amazing. It is absolutely fascinating. So, and again, I know what I'm doing and I'm still fascinated by it. And I still don't understand why we don't have more small businesses that do this. I had manufacturers in that same class. And the manufacturers told me, Michelle, I didn't even know that I could do these airplane parts that Boeing buys from me or has me to make. Because Boeing, just like these state contract people, all of these people will have you thinking that you must be a sub. Now, do I suggest that you go and do a big contract right away, even if you have lots of money? No, I do not, because you need to go through the process. You need to have that journey. All you need is a couple for products anyway. So I don't suggest that you do that, but I suggest that you not listen to people. When I was helping entrepreneurs that were experienced businesses, and I still do, of course, not as much coaching as I used to, they would say, I've heard about federal contracting. I just never knew how to do it. But they would say things like, well, I met a contracting officer one time. He was in the military, but he was also a contracting officer. And he said, I need past performance. Not true. Not true. Even on the service side. Now, do I suggest that you just go get a subcontractor and you don't know how to manage them? Do I believe in this middleman thing? No, I do not, because there's no such thing as a middleman. You are the prime. You're not the middle. And I get what they're saying. I can see why people can kind of buy into it, but that's not, it doesn't, it's not described properly. Yes, I can get someone. When I did manufacturing for DLA, when I had someone manufacture the product, I'm not the middleman. Yes, I get what they're saying. The manufacturer was kind of, but the reason I don't subscribe to that is because if something went wrong and something did go wrong, they didn't talk to the manufacturer, they talked to me. I'm the prime. The subcontractor is invisible. There is no middle. It is you as the prime and the sub. You guys get the work done. The contracting officer is the buyer. There's nobody in the middle. It is you and the sub. So I don't like that people think that way because you are responsible. This is your money. Now, when that manufacturer made a mistake, did I hold him accountable? I sure did. I told him, now you just held up your paycheck because I told you exactly what to do with those labels and you were not paying attention. He wanted the contract, which I mean, I like the guy, I did. But when it comes to business, I realized from that point on, I am responsible. She didn't call the manufacturer, she called me. I'm the one that won. And so don't subscribe to that. It's not realistic and it will get you blackballed and get you kicked out just like that. And if you are using a sub, you don't need to be talking about your sub unless they ask you. Because as small businesses, we don't have to identify. I'm under $700 million. I don't have to identify any subs that I use. So let's say that there's certain parts of my product that I'm not making. I don't have to tell them who it is because I'm still, as long as I stay under $1 billion, I call it $1 billion, long as I stay under $700 million, I'm a small business. So I don't need to give a subcontracting plan. And you also don't, you can use your small business's past performance and things like that, but you don't put their name on it. This is your employee. This is the company you're working with. This is the work that they've done. If you have to give it. In DLA, you don't have to do any of that. None of that. That is why I didn't realize it. You guys taught me this. This is the best place for you to start. I mean, feels a little stressful at first because you feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But when you get in my program, you feel a comfort because you're like, wow, she does give us everything. And that's not me talking. That's me asking people, do you feel like you had everything you needed? Or were there things that you didn't know? I keep it live because I know there are other things that are going to happen that I need to put in there. That's why the price has gone up a little bit. That program used to cost $700. $700 I was selling it for. Everybody was on me about, I can't believe you sell this for $700. Well, maybe I didn't know. Maybe I didn't understand that people didn't know. But when I had to start putting more into it, it's grown. I've increased the price 3 times. I've had to because I have to, my time is extremely valuable and I have to still give you the support, me and my team. I got to pay for those people to help you and to help me. So I did have to go up on it a little bit, but even then, until people used the information and started winning, while it was $700, that's not when I went up on it. It took me another year and a half to go up on the price because I felt I want people to get in here. I don't want them to feel like it's so much they can't afford it. But I do realize the value of it. I do realize, that people that want to do this, we can find another way to make it easier for them to get in. So we worked on those things. We've had quite some time with the journey, but I want to show you how if I click on, so this is 2590, right? But if I click on, let's see how far this goes over. If I click on number 4, is it still in 2590? Yeah, I guess so. Because look at this. So that's what I'm telling you. So the key is to find an FSC category that you like or that you don't mind working with, not just one, but 2. I can show you a ton of multi-million-dollar companies that all they do is DLA. They move over to SAM a little bit because DLA can put a cap on things, 250,000. So DLA, I shouldn't say DLA, I should say DIBS, because this is a different process than DLA on the SAM side. But DLA DIBS, 250,000 is the cap. Everything over 250,000, you can find in SAM. Okay, so I just wanted you guys to see this. You can organize this if you decide to go looking around, whether you're in my program or not. You can take one code. So this 2590, let's just pick that code since I keep talking about that one. It is a massive code. So let's go over to RFQs for 2590. I just want to show you this, and then we'll get into step by step. But 2590, I want you to see what that looks like if you were just to focus on one FSC code, and I'll tell you what I think about it. I didn't do this ahead of time. So that's about 732 contracts that are just sitting out there. So you would immediately look to see, okay, one thing, I'm going to do this line by line. So NSNs, I will click on NSNs to see how many of these are the same items. Because remember what I said, just because they all have the first four as 2590 does not mean that they are the same product. So all of these, none of these are the same. These are all different products. And that's how you win. Meaning you find a category with one supplier or two suppliers that can help you with 2590, and you start bidding on these. All those seeds are planted. Next thing you know, by the end of every month, you have 20 to 30 bids that you've submitted. You start winning. They're going to notice you. The system notices you. Richard calls it algorithm. I'm not like that. I think he's right, but he's probably right. But I figured that out by myself because I wanted to win. So because I saw so much activity here when I was training the veterans, I thought, I wonder what happens if I bid a lot. You know why I thought that? Because I do that on the SAM side. On the SAM side, with all contracting officers, you need to be seen. Now, is it as many on the SAM side as it is over here? No. But on the SAM side, all I had to do was show up for pharmaceuticals all the time. Every time I saw something for pharmaceuticals that I wanted to bid on, I showed up. There were only a few agencies that I would work with, Veterans Administration, Health and Human Services. And so I got to know who those contracting officers were. Because my mind as an entrepreneur, this is how I think. This is how business is. And if you don't think like this, you will start to. Business is just about learning the system. So I figured, well, I know the SAM system. I mean, this does look kind of weird, this bid board that they have, but I'm sure I could figure it out. So I just started playing with it. I got registered and I started playing with it. And within 3 weeks, I was mad because I hadn't heard anything. So I contacted the contracting officer and said, I bid on these things. I didn't know I didn't need to do that. You don't need to do that. But I was just in a hurry. I wanted to hurry up and win. I wanted to see what was happening. By that time, I had about 20 bids in. And I'm trying to show these veterans how to do this. And I'm trying to show them, stop complaining. Let's just figure this out. And I wanted to figure it out for them. And I did. And they were like, how did you do that? Now, in all fairness, I have experience that they did not have. I was a winner on the SAM side. But because my mind says these contracting officers, they don't have time to talk to you. There are millions of people trying to talk to them. I'm exaggerating. They don't have time for that. But you know what I noticed on the SAM side? They sure do try to talk to me when I bid. You know why? Because every time I bid, there were only a few people that bid against me. Sometimes it might have been two of us. Now, how do I know that? They're not going to tell me. They're not going to tell me who my competitors are. I know that because I know how to use USA spending that Obama created. Obama created that. He created that because he got all of this money that he needed to spend with every state, even though the Republicans did not support him. And by the way, I personally believe we shouldn't even have parties. People should be elected based on who they are and what they do for us, period, the end. But we have parties. Anyway, the Republicans were claiming they weren't taking the money. They were taking the money that he got for the recovery. They were hiding it from their small businesses in Texas, You know how I know? Because I would go to all of these states to try to teach people the same way I teach you, except it was live, and tell them, you have $750 million worth of contracts in your state. Those businesses could not believe that money that was sitting there, because this is how these politicians play games. This is why we need to pay attention. It's about what's happening with the money. Rick Perry at the time, I'm going to call him out. He was the governor. He was sitting there, the first person to say, I'm not taking that money. He took that money and acted like he didn't take that money. And then he turned around a year later and said, look at me, I created jobs. He didn't tell those small businesses about that money, but I told them how to go get it. That was happening in every single state. Obama had to give that money to every single state that asked for it because we needed to create jobs. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. People don't understand how serious that was. And I was younger during that time. I was like, I mean, I was smart, I guess, but I was passionate about government contracting. But I could not believe what was happening. People were losing their houses, businesses were closing. Obama did that. The Republicans were not trying to help him, but guess what? Because he understood that we, as small businesses, women, he gave us WOSB. It was already in the works, but he approved WOSB. So he needed women, he needed minorities, he needed all kinds of businesses, no matter what nationality you were, no matter what size business you were, except if you were a large company. He knew the larger companies weren't going to help. They don't work with us except to use us when we let them. He knew small businesses were going to get him out of that mess. He took over a mess. We were in recovery. People in America have very short memories. We were in a mess. So I listened to everything he was trying to do, and that's how I learned USA spending. That's how I know how to dig deep before I know who my so-called competitors are going to be even before they get there. I also know that competition is not what you think it is. Most of the time, you have less than 5 people that are bidding against you. Sometimes it's just you and someone else, even with DLA, believe it or not. Believe it or not, even with DLA. The people that know how to do this are very quiet, except me and my community. Everybody else, those people are very quiet. They don't want you to know. And that's okay. You don't need them to know. So I just took one of these codes, which is what you would do, and I put it by itself, just the 2590. And I have 700 opportunities. Now, why is that important? Sometimes there are thousands. Why is that important? Because you want to get in a space where you can continue to win. Now, I would not use these technical docs. And in my program, I always teach people, stay away from the technical docs unless you're a manufacturer, because you need to win fast. So these documents, all of these, and some people would ask me, well, do you think there are going to be enough technical docs? And enough non-technical docs. And I would say, absolutely. You would be shocked. So what does that mean when there are no technical docs? That means that it's not that complicated. You can find the part somewhere. And the government gives you clues about that. They tell us everything we need to know. Now, is it always right or accurate? No. I mean, sometimes you gotta just take the little morsel and then clean it up a little bit. That's true. That's why the veterans were so frustrated, because they're like, well, they tell us that this is the supplier and they're just another contractor. Exactly. So how do we deal with that? Those are the things that are small, but they're huge, because if you don't find the difference between the supplier and the person who's just like you call someone, and I call someone and I ask them, can you give me pricing? I'm just going to click on this link. So here are three, you guys can see my screen. Let me just make sure you can see where I am. Here are 3 different suppliers, supposedly. So this is good because it means I have different part numbers. So that means I could get either one of these 3 part numbers. So that's good news. Now, these 3 companies, I have to check them out before I call them. People didn't know that. I had to learn that. And I had to teach my people that, you guys, my proteges, because what I realized was I didn't get my feelings hurt when I called because I knew what I was doing. I could call a supplier, and this is what the veterans were saying. They were saying, now you see what we mean. I could call a so-called supplier because I believe the government too. Well, they got the supplier right here. So I'm thinking, I'll just call them. And I got in heated discussions with some of these suppliers. What do you mean this is a no bid? What do you mean you can't give me pricing? What do you mean? I didn't understand. So I had to go back to the drawing board. And I will be honest, I got frustrated and I thought it was because I was a woman. I thought maybe it's because I'm a woman. They're not used to women being in this environment. And so the veterans laughed and said, well, Michelle, it could be because you're a woman, but we're having a hard time too. But I didn't know what it was, but I decided I'm gonna figure it out. But I got frustrated and I went and had some products made. Now, I realize everybody can't do that. That's not realistic. But I was mad. So I went and had some bolts made. I went and had some paint made. I mean, I knew how to do that. But then I realized they can't do that because they're just trying to figure this out. So these three people that are right here, just like everybody else, I probably would have started out just by calling them. But what I figured out very quickly was don't just call them, look them up. First, look them up. Look them up and see if they're winning in this area. Then, if they're not winning in this area, and I use USA Spending to do that. I am a guru with USA Spending. That happened during Obama. It didn't look this pretty. When he had them to create USA Spending and clean it up, it didn't look anything like this, but it was definitely usable. He wanted us as taxpayers and business people to know where the money was going so that it would be fair, so that people could say, well, so-and-so state is getting this money and we haven't, what did he do with the $750 billion? It was all there. Some went to medical, some went to housing, and we were in a freaking mess. It was a hot mess when he took over, a hot mess. So when you and me, people like us, started realizing we could win these contracts, we might not have known all the answers like this. I didn't know all the answers, but there were even more opportunities sitting out there. And you're just baffled because you're thinking, why is all this stuff sitting out here? So I started calling these people, and some of them were rude, some of them were a certain way. But then I decided, not only am I going to vet them, I'm going to look them up, but I'm going to go to their website and I'm going to look them up first to see if they're winning so that I don't call a competitor, even though I don't believe in that word, so that I don't call someone that is going to be bidding against me, or so that I don't alert this company that I am now in their space. And that's what the veterans were doing. The veterans were calling these people, and these people were basically laughing at them. No, because you know why they were laughing at them? They're basically saying, you think you're about to come over here and start getting some of this business? Scarcity mindset. And so that's what they were getting. They were getting their feelings hurt because they were not used to small businesses learning and coming over to them saying, hey, I want to work with you on this. They didn't even, some of them are so small-minded. And I will tell you, I tell some people that's why he only makes $5 million a year. That's why he only makes $2 million a year. He should be making 20, but he's small-minded. So you have some of these companies that are like that. But then you have some of, not all, but some of the larger companies, they just like making money and they will work with you and they don't care because they're not scarcity mindset companies. They're not scarcity. I find those companies, some of you probably heard about this, for my hot list, because those are the people, they just want to make money. They may not even make the product. Some of these large manufacturers are not just manufacturers, but they're also distributors of other companies' products. And it sounds big, and it's sometimes when you first get in hard to understand, but some of these people are not real suppliers or approved sources, as we call them. Some of them are not approved sources. So let's say this one right here. I pick on them because they're an LLC. Most of the time, some very large companies are LLC. Some are, but most of the time, companies that are INCs and corporations, they're usually huge conglomerates and they will work with you, believe it or not. I'm not talking about the Boeings and the Lockheeds because they are haters too of small businesses because they've been using small businesses for a long time. All they do is use My manufacturers that I've taught how to do this, that's all they do. And my manufacturers would say, I didn't even know that I could sell directly those parts to the government. I said, I know, because they're not going to tell you that. They're going to make you think small. So this guy right here probably is not a true approved source. This guy right here could be, and I don't know this guy, I don't, but they could be, and more than likely, they are someone like me and you. They bid, they are a government contractor, they are a small business or a large business. It does not matter. Doesn't matter large or small, but they probably are not the true supplier. So when we call this guy right here to ask him for pricing, he might even give it to me because maybe he's a distributor. But distributors compete against us also. Manufacturers, a lot of times, they just are in the background. A lot of them don't sell. A lot of them don't deal with the government directly. A lot of them have people like this guy that they make a distributor. You could be one too. That's the goal. But you could be one too. But if he's the distributor and then you look him up and you find out he's winning, why are you calling him? You should have checked that out before you called him, because now he's going to give you a price. He's just going to make you lose so that you get out of his territory. It is going to discourage you. It is going to make you feel bad. And then you're going to want to just give up. That's what he's trying to do. And that's what happened to the veterans. That's what was happening to them a lot. Not just the group that came to me. It was happening to veterans all over. Richard was the first person to help me to understand that. He's like, me and my veteran friends, because Richard is a veteran. He said, we've been talking about doing this overseas for a long time. We just didn't know what to do. Nobody would tell us. And I said, well, I mean, it's not like it's public information. It is public information, but the public organizations that are supposed to help us, they don't know how, because they don't know it either. So you have to learn it. And there are just a handful of people that learn it. Okay, so when you call somebody like this, you just told him what you're doing. You just gave away your strategy. And now, and some of them will tell you, well, we're bidding on that. But I tell my person, my protege, well, don't get all upset about that. Just get off the phone. Don't argue with that person. You don't want to work with nobody like that anyway. But when you hang up the phone, you should be thinking to yourself, well, 2590 has 700 opportunities sitting out there. If you were going to bid on that, why didn't you bid already? Because they're full of it. And because they're trying to block. So is there really such a thing? Absolutely. You know what they can do? If these contracting officers, like this contracting officer for this particular item, if this contracting officer sees the veterans coming, they will like that the veterans are coming. And then they will start setting aside for the veterans. But if you can keep the veterans out, then the government is still dependent on me. I'm not a veteran. I'm not a woman. I'm not a minority. I'm just blocking. So that's how that works. And that's why this is a gold mine, because those people don't see us coming. They don't see us coming. And so this is why I encourage people to get out of this area and go into another area. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the steps. I just skipped you over everything and let you see basically how this works. The only thing I didn't tell you about how to do is bid, but we're going to walk through the process of that. Okay. So even before we leave, do you see this little solicitation right here? That's not how you bid, but all of your information is on that solicitation. Meaning, if you wanted to know the pricing, you click on that link, the solicitation will tell you what's the last price that was awarded and when is the last time the government actually bought this, okay? So you kind of know most of the story, but I'm going to show you how this story happens. Let me reshare my screen. We'll go back to where we were, and then we're going to walk through the steps. So I've already said this basically, selling products to defense logistics is the fastest and the easiest, believe it or not, way to start. Now, with packaging and labeling, it feels a little more complicated, but it's not. They help us with that too. And I will talk to you about that towards the end. So the thing that I want you to realize about not just DLA, not just DLA, but this applies to every agency. But DLA is something that is going to happen consistently all of the time, no matter what, for the rest of our lives. When you die, DLA will be doing the same thing, buying the same stuff every single year. Okay, before you got here, before I got here, they were doing this. May not be in the same manner, but they were doing this. So you will always have a buying customer. I mean, who doesn't want a business where you know this customer has to buy? And there are not a lot of people in front of this customer, getting their attention. People used to ask me, and I didn't know this either at first, Michelle, how do I get in front of the contracting officer? And for many years, even I went along with that nonsense until I started telling our clients, we are not going to set up a meeting with you because they would have their own account managers. I had account managers that were assigned to a lot of our clients, and I would let them set up a meeting with the director of small business. Them small business people, leave them alone. They will not help you win. The only thing that they are good for, bless their hearts, and they are good people, they will give you maybe a list of forecasted opportunities that are coming. They will help you understand who you need to talk to about what. Will they introduce you to a contracting officer? No. Can they? Yes, but they're afraid. They don't, I bypassed those people for so many years. And I tell you guys, don't get your feelings hurt. Don't ask her about that. Ask her about the list for the forecast opportunities. That's what you talk to her about because she ain't gonna help you meet that contracting officer. So how do you meet the contracting officer, which would be this buyer right here? You meet them by bidding. That's the only way to meet them. Now, some people say, well, I met that contracting officer at the party, and then when the bid came out, he acted like he didn't know me or he said the bid was going to come out and it never came out. Well, first of all, he has to keep things fair. He has to keep things fair. He is not going to just now, did he like seeing you and meeting you? Of course. But he may or may not be the decision maker. You should not be talking to or dealing with anybody that's not making decisions. You are wasting your time. It's not like in commercial. It's completely different. So I learned, and some of our clients didn't want to hear it. And I got rid of some clients too. I said, we're not going to keep taking your money because you want to meet with these contracting officers. You're not going to meet them. You're going to meet small business development people and they can't help you. You need to be bidding. And if you don't want to do that, we don't want to continue taking your money because you are not winning. That is how I judge my organization. We need you winning. Otherwise, you need to do something else. And my staff didn't understand that, but I mean, I don't want that attached to me because you are going to later on say, well, we paid them all this money and we didn't get any results. I want them to say, well, she told us that this is not a fit because we were not doing what her and her team were trying to teach us to do. And I told them, you have an 8A. That 8A does not guarantee you contracts. It's not like it used to be. You have to go and bid. You're already a $5 million company. This was a nice size $5 million company. They were doing well, but they were told they could win from an 8A. But no, it doesn't work like that. Just because you got a WSB doesn't mean it works like that. That's why that's why the federal government doesn't understand. How come these people are not winning? All the laws are in place for us. It's because people are teaching you guys all wrong. Your certifications are a strategy. They are not the guarantee. They're just a strategy. When they see you, then they start setting aside for you, just like the veterans. When they start seeing the veterans, they started setting aside. And that guy who was blocking, or guys they knew that, they know that. So you will always have a buying customer. You will always have a product to sell them. You don't even have to think of what the product is. They tell you what the product is. They tell you everything. Again, they may not tell you how to do it because they don't know how to do it. All they know how to do is buy. All they know how to do is give you a contract. You have to know the other part. You will have an extremely rare skill. You will feel so powerful when you know how to do government contracts. You will, because a lot of businesses hear about it. They just don't know like how to do it. They don't get it. They've been to all kinds of seminars, all kinds of stuff, and nobody tells them the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So once you win, you continue to win. You guys may have seen some of my videos where I'm talking to some of the winners and I asked them, are you ready? Yeah, Michelle, I'm ready, but they don't believe me. They don't. I tell them, you're about to start winning a lot, right? And they'll say, yeah, I'm ready. But some of them are not ready. They're caught off guard. And then they're overwhelmed. And I said, I told you. Yeah, you did. I mean, I believed it, but I didn't really believe because if you do these things, you're going to win. And they did everything I told them to do and they start winning. So at some point, some of them, I'm not kidding you, have to go back and take out some of their bids because they feel like they can't keep up with themselves. They need to hire a person, they need to do certain things, or they need to understand you now are not behind, but you were supposed to be ahead. That's why I was telling you these things. You need a vision, you need a strategy. Now you have a WOSB, or now you have a veteran certification. Now you have an 8A. Now contracting officers are going to find you and ask you, do you want to bid on these things? I am not kidding you. This is what's happening in my community. It happens to me. I get things from DLA on a bigger level asking me, do you want to bid on this? Because we picked you because you are a woman-owned manufacturer. I'm not even there yet with the things that they want me to. I mean, we're looking at 3 products and they want me to do these other ones. But then I said, you know what? We could do one of them. We'll be ready for one of them. And they need warehousing. So they find us. That's how your codes work. But they wouldn't find me if I didn't have the right codes. How do you get the right codes? You pay attention to what you're looking at. If 2950 is a good code for me and I like that, and I want to continue to do that, I'm going to put that in my SAM. Even if it's not in there right now, I'm going to go back and put that in there. Why would I do that? Because contracting officers that manage 2950 are looking for me. They're looking for you. All of them are looking for you. Because when you do those things, you help them do their jobs. These larger companies, or that guy or guys that are blocking the veterans, they're not helping them do their jobs. When you show up and say, listen, that product that you want to buy, it's discontinued, but I have another product for you. That's what you're doing their jobs. You're helping them do their jobs. You're doing your job and you're helping them do their jobs. So it's all very important. Okay. So you can dominate an industry. As you can see, that 2590, just as an example, is only one of those industries that nobody's paying attention to. How do I know that? Because it wouldn't be that much sitting out there if they were paying attention to it. Nobody's taking care of that contracting officer who is the buyer, who is the customer. Nobody's taking care of them, not like they should be. Someone has not decided to dominate that area. Okay. And then you can build your business as large or small as you want. So it's very simple. They want to buy something, you want to sell something. They must buy something. You want to sell something. They need you more than you need them. It's as simple as that. Always remember that when you first start and if you're feeling a little bit scared, okay? So it's just going to take some simple things. Your commitment, the discipline, and consistency is very important. But the commitment and and discipline, they come from, or they allow the consistency. So there are 3 things that you must have to win. You need the product that we already talked about. You need the suppliers, and you need $200 to maybe $1,500 minimum. I've seen people win contracts with $20, and they keep winning the $20 ones and making some profit, because not everybody has a lot of money. This is one of those situations where you don't need a lot of money, for sure. No money, or I shouldn't say no money, but a little money. I mean, do I think you need to start with a little bit more if you can? Sure. But I tell people minimum $200, put it aside and don't touch it. When you start winning, if I did a $20 product, or let's say I got a contract and I won and I made $100 profit, that should go in the vault. That should go in your kitty for building up your money so that you're not living out of it. And I know that sounds small. I'm just using those small numbers as an example. But then you start winning bigger and bigger. The next thing you know, you have $5,000. Even $5,000 is a lot of money. Quite frankly, $2,000 is a lot of money with DLA. Now, you can't do a lot of the big stuff, but then what happens is, why do you want to consistently do a lot of small ones? Because you also build up credit with your suppliers. Then you don't have to use your money. They give you 30 days to pay. The government will pay you by then. So you're leveraging. There's so many things that are happening, which is why I like DLA so much, is because of that. So you have In addition to the three things that you need, you have the three steps. We just talked about the product, a lot about the product, but you got to choose a product. Some people have trouble choosing a product. Why? Because it's so much out there. Okay, so you need to make sure that you understand the faster you choose a product off of this list. Now, how do you get to that quickly? I'll talk a little bit more about that, but you got to choose an FSC code off the list and then you go look it up, just like I showed you at the beginning of this training. I spent quite some time over there in the beginning. I showed you 2590. I put it in the search bar, and you don't need to be already in DIBS to do that. That's another fascinating thing about it. The only thing you need to do is, even when you're waiting to get registered, I tell people, don't just sit there while you're waiting to get registered. You should be doing number 1 and number 2. And then you'll be ready for number 3 when your registration goes through. That could take a couple weeks. One, sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's a little bit slower, but you got to choose a product. That's step 1. You have to choose a supplier. And I just told you, when you click on that link, that supplier may not be the perfect situation, but it's a start. It's a start because it tells you the type of company that the government is dealing with. But like I said, even though you're not in my program, I'm telling you, you need to vet them, meaning you look them up, see if they're winning. Are they winning? USA Spending, you look them up in USA Spending by their name, you look them up under awards in DLA. If they're not winning, okay, they might be a good source. Now, what I tell people is, and this is one of the reasons I created the hot list, is because as Gordon says, one of my superstars, you sometimes have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the right one. You could vet. So let's say that list had that approved source list. The government gave us an approved source of 10 companies. Only 2 of them are going to be any good. Most of them will not be any good. So that is why your supplier relationship is so important, because once you find a supplier willing to work with you, and that's why I did the hot list, is because I know some of these suppliers and I know they're not going to give you a hard time and they have all the products. That's what I need. I need you guys to build your confidence. A lot of people were getting their feelings hurt when they were not listening to me. I said, you did not listen to that part of the course, but that's okay. I told you don't call these people unless you know who you're calling. Because now your confidence is, you're having a bad day. And I can understand it because I was disgusted. Didn't hurt my confidence, it just made me angry. But that was only because I knew if I was inexperienced, it probably would have hurt my confidence. And I might have walked away. This is what people want you to do. They want you to walk away. So that's why I created the hot list, because I don't want my people, if you're struggling with a product, I'm going to give you 25 products and I want you to just work this list. You don't even have to talk to those people. All you got to do is set up an account, get your own pricing. And the next thing you know, you got 25, 30 bids in there. And the next thing you know, you're winning. That's how they win so fast, because I know what it felt like. I had to look up my bids. I had to look up my people. I don't want you guys to have to, I don't want to make you lazy. I don't, or not get you to learn the process. That is why I don't sell the hot list to anybody, because if you are not understanding the process or you're not in the program, then you can't have my hot list. It's too valuable, because then you will go out there and you won't do things right. And then you'll mess it up for the rest of us. And I can't be part of that. So I had to take it off of the general market. But my people, if you're with me, I'm not going to sit up and watch you struggle like that. I want to talk to you. I want to figure out why and what can we do to help you. And sometimes in one conversation, even if it's 15 minutes, I realize that's why you're struggling, because you're so busy being upset about this supplier right here that doesn't mean anything. He's not the only supplier in the world. His name just happens to be on that list. Why are you having a discussion with him when you can find other suppliers? And some people get stuck like that, especially if you're very analytical. The last thing is bidding. If you're bidding, you're winning. Okay, so that's the last step. Now, just so that I walk through the entire process with you very quickly, but I'm going to break down some more. This is how it works. So the contracting officer puts the bids on that board that you saw, right? Where I went, they put all those bids out there. Those are products they must buy. So they're all out there, right? They're just sitting there waiting for you, waiting for me, waiting for someone to help them. You go out there, number two, step two, you locate the product. You click on the link like I did. You see the product that they need. You might look up the product. I suggest that you do if you don't know what it is. A lot of people shy away from things they don't know about. That's the problem. That is why all of that is sitting there. You don't need to be an expert in it. Just look it up and see what it's used for so that when you talk to the supplier, you feel a little bit more comfortable in case they say, well, that part number doesn't sound right. You can describe it or you can name it, okay? So step two is you go to the supplier to locate the items that the contracting officer is asking for. You make sure the inventory is there. You make sure that that supplier, you feel good about them. You've already done all your vetting. And now you can get a price, okay? So you locate, hold on a second. So you locate and price the item from the manufacturer, distributor, or supplier. Now, let me just make one note to you. We won't go into this, but you should know, most of you do know this probably, you should know the difference between a manufacturer, a distributor, and a supplier, or I should say, not supplier, retailer. So all of them can be suppliers. Sometimes you look up and you can go directly to the manufacturer. Whenever you can go directly to the manufacturer, your profit margins are going to be a little better, a lot better in some cases. But if the manufacturer does not deal directly B2B, business to business, they will send you to a distributor. That distributor is allowed to sell that product. So when that distributor sells that product to you, that's why you need to vet that company as a distributor, because they could be bidding against you. They could give you a price. That happened to me. They could give you a price of $20 per item, per unit, and then come behind you and bid on the same thing if they can find it. Because you don't give them all the information. You just ask them about the product. You don't tell anybody ever until you're ready to work with them what you're doing. And most people, most companies that just want to do business, they won't even ask. But again, that's my hot list. That's why I do that, because you don't even have to talk to these people. When you sign up for an account as a business, you can get pricing on your own. If you want better pricing, then you talk to customer service and say, I wanted to see if I can get some better pricing. So, but you get the pricing in number three, okay? And then you accept the manufacturer's offer of the pricing. How do you do that? You bid. You take the information they gave you and you go to step three and you bid. That's how you do that, okay? Then after that, you are considered to have made an offer to the contracting officer. It's bidding. It's the same as bidding. You made an offer. Here, Mr. Contracting Officer, I found this item for $5 per unit. My bid is in there. You don't have to tell them anything. They can see it. It comes up. You put your bid out there. Maybe there are a couple of other people that are going to bid against you. And the contracting officer eventually will make a decision. Okay, sometimes it's very quick. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, but you don't want to just have one bid out there. You need a lot, like 20 to 30. When I was doing the research for myself so that I could teach the veterans, I discovered a sweet spot was 25 to 30 bids just sitting there, because then I started winning one right after the other. But I have people that they only have 10 in there and they win and they keep winning. And I tell them, yeah, but you're going to mess up your streak. You meaning, okay, you won one, but you only have 10 sitting there. That's great that you still won, but do you know where you're headed? Well, yeah, I like this category. Then put some more bids out there. Do some more work. Don't just sit there. Don't just stop. If you're trying to, some people are using this going into their own business for the first time, government contracting they're using in general, but they're going into business the first time because maybe they got a six-figure salary that they like, but they don't want to work for corporate America. They've been wanting to work for themselves. So if you have a goal, you need to be moving faster, sooner than later. Okay, you should be moving every single weekend. I had a business, and I know that those veterans were clients, but I had more than one business, just like I do now. I had to do this on the weekend, and I'm the boss. I told them, yeah, you guys are going to have to give me a minute because I'm doing some of this on my own time. I said because they thought I was going to charge them to do this. I did not, because now I'm fascinated with it. Now I want to learn. And I felt like I needed to learn. So I did not do that to them, but I told them I got to do it on the weekend. So we'll meet next week and I'll tell you what my findings are. So I would meet with them every week with the progress and let them know. So this is what's happening. And when I won, they couldn't believe it. Oh my God, she won already. But I did have an advantage. I knew Sam. I knew how to win with contracts. Okay. So you made the offer to the contracting officer, and now the contracting officer accepts your contract, or accepts your offer. And now, number 6, you are awarded the contract. Number 7, here's another great thing about DLA. You don't have to purchase the item until you win. You don't need to sit up there and buy all these items like they used to do in the past. Nobody has to do that anymore. Even some of the manufacturers don't make you do that if you want to be a distributor. They used to. Now they don't make you do that. So you purchase the product from the manufacturer. Now, I will say this to you. If it turns out that the contracting officer took too long, maybe you gave them 30 days for that price, and they come back at 35 days, they will ask you, because they are very respectful of the process. If you put in there that you want that price, or you'll give them that price for 30 days, because you need to ask the contracting officer, not the contracting officer, but you need to ask the supplier, how long is this price good for? They may say 20 days. That's what you give the contracting officer, because you will be held to that price. And so if you put in there 20 days, because the supplier told you 20 days, you're fine. But sometimes these contracting officers, they come at the last minute, 25 days or 35 days. You have to tell them, yes, I can check on the price to make sure that it is still current. You need to let them know because they took too long. Okay. But you can go back, and if the price increases, you need to tell them the price increased. You don't have to go up on your profit. You can keep your same profit as long as it's built in, but that other part of the price it needs to change. So you would not rebid. They're asking you, usually they'll ask you, can you give me an updated price? Okay. Now, number 8, number 7, you purchase the item, the product for the contracting officer. And number 8, then the manufacturer, distributor, or supplier sends it to you. It needs to come to you directly. DLA does not do drop ship. They don't do that. So you need to have it come to you. Also, another wonderful thing is you don't have to pay taxes on items for the government. We need to tell the manufacturers that. We need to remind them. But you don't tell them that until you work with them. So the price they give you will probably include the taxes. So you can remove the taxes in your calculations. Those taxes can be your profit. I've seen that happen. Okay, more profit for you. Then number 9, you receive the product and you prepare it to ship. And we'll talk about that towards the end, because that's the end part. But you prepare it to ship. Label, package, ship. Sometimes the government pays for shipping, sometimes they don't. It just depends on the product or the item. When they pay for the shipping, and you can focus on only contracts that the government pays for if you want to. There's a lot of strategy you can do with DLA DIBs, okay? And then 10, the product is accepted by DLA and you get paid. You have to invoice them. That's one of the support things you have to do, but that's how it works. Now, I want to pause just for a second. I don't want to get into any long details about any questions, but I do think that we have a small enough group where I can pause and answer a question. So Matthew says, can we still quote if the return by date is past due? Another wonderful thing about DLA. That is why a lot of that is sitting there. It's a strategy. I tell people, go after the older ones, 6 months. Now, personally, I think 2 years is too old without talking to the contracting officer. When you go into DIBS, it tells you under help, because people ask that question. They ask this exact question. Can I still bid on this if it's open? You know what the answer is? The answer inside of DLA, DIBS, they say yes. If it's open, we still need it. And yes, you're allowed to bid on it. They only do a return by date because they just do. I mean, it's what you do when you're bidding. But sometimes it doesn't mean anything. Now, those fast awards, those ones that have the big F, the big red F, they really are going to buy those fast. That's another strategy. If you see an area of the FAST awards, or you want to do, let's say, 5 different products because you want to do FAST awards, you have the ability to do that. You have a great supplier relationship. You should do that too. There are a lot of strategies you can have to move quickly, but absolutely. Now, I will say, Matthew, if it is over, this is just me, this is my recommendation. If it's over, I would say 10 months, I would just reach out to the contracting officer. Don't try to talk to them or engage them in a lot of conversation. Put the solicitation number in the subject line and just ask the question. Let them know you'd like to bid on this specific product under this solicitation number. Is this product still needed? Now, sometimes people will tell me, well, I did that and they didn't answer me. Some of them will answer, some of them won't. Some of them are just overwhelmed. Their jobs are crazy. Sometimes it's a new contracting officer. It's a fast moving process. That's why we have to learn how to do this. They don't know what we do and how we do it. They don't. They really don't. And I learned that on my journey by myself. By myself. That's why I don't listen to what contracting officers say about an agency. Oh, you need to have experience to work with that agency. That has never been true. And when it is true, it is only for a small percentage, because this administration is pushing unbundling contracts, meaning not making the contracts so big. Like my contracts, yes, the ones I'm after, they're going to be bigger because I'm doing manufacturing, but I'm good with that. But they used to make it that they were so big that we wouldn't even want to look at it. Because it's like, how am I supposed to do that? I'm barely $1 million company. That's what people would think. And so we were being discouraged. Now they can't do that anymore. When I say they, the contracting officers, they can't do that anymore. There's a whole team of people watching out for me and you. They're called PCRs. All they do, their job is to make sure that every time something is coming up for a contract, that it is fair to us, meaning you don't make this contract $1 billion contract when you know small businesses are not going to be interested. You break it down. Can you break it down? Can you make it, 20 million here, 20 million there, or does it have to be all together? That is their jobs. There's a whole group, the SBA, a lot of them report to the SBA. That's something that the SBA is good for. The SBA is good in watching out for us, but they don't know how to help us win. The only way they know how to help us win is by getting us certifications, and they don't know how to tell you to use it. So it's still not helpful. It doesn't help to have it and you don't know how to use it. But they have those PCRs under their division, under the SBA division, and they monitor all of these agencies to make sure that we are getting a fair shot at opportunities. Because, and it's in the government's best interest too. Why? And it's in their interest to leave those sitting out there. Because if this has a large company's name on it, if Boeing is the approved source, but Boeing is not paying attention. They don't care. They're not going to come out here and bid. So it's just going to sit there. But what if you understood, like I'm teaching you, that ain't got to come from Boeing? They probably didn't make it anyway. All you have to do is focus on, where do I get this part? The part number is king. The cage code matters too. But what if you could get the part number, but that person, or the part from that part number, but that person doesn't have a cage code? You can do that as long as it's the right part. Okay, so, all right, next question before I move on. I purchased dibs when, who is this? So I should know you. Hi, Stacy. Stacy, I think I remember you. So Stacy, what's going on? How long do I have access? As long as I have access, you have access, as long as I'm in existence. We're not supposed to say forever, but you have it forever. You need to get busy though, Stacy. Have you won? I think I remember you.
It's
Because I
been a
get a
while.
list
No,
of,
I haven't won. I'm just, slowly
I know.
forward.
You have a lot going on, but you have access as long as you want. In fact, there's probably a whole lot more stuff in there for you. A whole,
Good. Okay, that's good because I'm
yeah.
back on the train.
Yeah, Stacy, just, try, because I get it. We all have lives. I'm going through it right now. I have these big contracts. And I could have canceled today or not had today, but I'm not out there enough. And I love doing the webinars to meet new people and to help people to understand the program. Plus, I'm on a mission. I want more contractors. And see, this is good for you to say that to me because you're in my community, you're protected, you have what you need to get started. But I get it. You know, we have to put things on the back burner, but you still are going to have access. My operations manager said, should we let people have access that long? I said, I'm the CEO. I'm saying yes. People,
It
if
takes
they
that
want
long.
it,
It
yeah,
it takes that long and it's needed. And this was my the reason why I jumped in here was because this was my barrier. You know, I was having difficulty trying to find a supplier in which lane that I'm going to
yes.
be in, you know.
Hmm.
So this
Yeah.
is good for
And
me.
Stacy, you might just need to have a quick, discussion with me. Because sometimes I can peel back the layers of what your block. And I'll be honest with you too. Sometimes I have to ask you questions for you to think about things a certain way. Sometimes it is as simple as these are some of the simple questions I might ask. Do you just want to win? And the person says,
Yep.
yeah, I do. Then listen, this is what you're going to do. This is what you need to do. And sometimes it is, well, Michelle, I've won at state level. I'm ready to take my business to another level. I want to talk about a strategy because that's different. But if you
Hmm.
just want to win, which is most of the people, 80% of you guys just want to win and learn how to, because some of our vision, the first priority is financial. Maybe I'm doing this business that I really don't like and I don't want to do that anymore. Maybe I'm working in corporate America and I don't want to do that anymore. Or maybe I just want to add another stream of income to my service business. So a lot of times it's financial. So we start there. And
Hmm.
then, I can tell you, if some people say, I really want to win fast. Well, if you do this, you'll win fast. You will.
Yeah.
So it just really depends. So Stacy, don't hesitate and make sure you use my name when you reach out to the service team to say, I really do need to talk to Michelle. We'll figure it out. My calendar is blocked out, but not for people that are in the program with me. Okay,
Oh, good. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Mhm.
Okay, so Stephanie, you will have my information, okay? I know the team does protect me because that's their job, they have to, but whenever you guys tell them I was in her webinar and she said that, I could talk to her or whatever, they'll do it. They'll come and they'll find a way, okay? All right, so let's go on to the next thing. So you guys see how really it's this simple. Are there a lot of things around steps 1, 2, and 3? All of this I just went through in steps 1 through 10. That encompasses steps 1 through 3, 1, 2, and 3 specifically. But now we're going to break that down just a little bit more. So we talked about you choosing your product. This is step 1, you choosing your product. I'm not going to spend a lot of time over here because we already kind of did that. However, I want you to understand this market is so huge. I demonstrated that by trying to show you all of those different FSC codes, but there are tens of thousands of product requests every single day. I can't say this because I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are a billion items that they need that are on and I call Dibs the marketplace. It's the marketplace. I wouldn't be surprised. And they buy all kinds of parts, all kinds of things. Aviation is just one area, one area. They buy food. Now, DLA is not as big on food, with food on the dib side. I think they do a lot of canned goods and things like that, but they are big on the food side for SAM on the bigger contracts. But they do all kinds of things. Some of this I've already discussed with you, but I do want to highlight what I said. The key is to consistent winning. How do you do that? You choose a product that you can consistently bid on. So you find something like we did with the 2590 as an example. You find something, you're like, this field looks great. I call it having longevity. What do I mean by that? Sometimes people start out by finding something that's like sitting over in a corner. Like I remember one young lady, she did sewing machines. She's like, Michelle, I got $6,000 to start with. And I said, well, you got a fortune. $6,000 is a fortune with DLA. I'm serious. Until you're ready to start growing. But you can grow very quickly financially to get to build your war chest, as I call it. So she has $6,000. She said, I'm seeing these sewing machines. She said, but I'm concerned because you said something. You said You talk about longevity. And I said, yes, I do, but what do you mean by that? She said, well, they only need like 20 sewing machines, and there's no long history. Like I don't see it continuing to come up. And I said, there's nothing wrong with you doing those. But I want you to, there's nothing wrong at all. I said, and she won too, by the way. I said, go after that. You're going to see some small areas that look interesting to you, but you need to understand that if you go and take that same area and do a USA spending report and you don't see a lot of activity, I would not suggest that you spend a lot of time in that area. Because when you first start, you may be doing some things that you don't like or that you don't know. When I say you don't like, for instance, I don't like bolts and hardware and stuff, but I wanted it. I wanted it because that's the area that the guys were in, capacitors and resistors and hardware. Those are two different areas, but they were complaining about these areas that seemed tough. And I just wanted to go in and prove that they could be done. Now, could I have continued to sell paint? Even to people that, as a distributor, yes, I could have. I wasn't interested because I got other stuff to do. I like medical, but I know how to win. Now, if I didn't have the experience, someone can become, I am not joking when I say this, a multi-millionaire just in hardware, doing those nuts and bolts. Because now we've gotten those doors open and those people trying to hold us back, they can't hold us back anymore because we know what we're doing. They can't block anymore because we're going around them. And the contracting officers, and they're telling some of my people, I really like working with you. I'm so glad to see this new business. They are sick of these old people that have just been there, as Richard calls them, the old heads. They're sick of them. They don't like them. And also, the government doesn't like when they don't have any competition. So you want to look for areas where these contracting officers need help. Difficult to find products. Now, how do you know if it's difficult to find? Because it's just been sitting there. Now, why would you think that you could find it and nobody else can? Because they don't know what you know. They're not you, and they're not with me. That's why they're sitting there. But there's some of us that if we wanted to do hardware all day long, we could become very quickly multimillionaires, but we get bored with it. Some of us get bored with it. A lot of people will start where I started, and I asked them, "Why did you choose bolts and brackets and things?" Well, Michelle, because that's what you did. They're just doing what I did. But then they start winning a lot, and then they're thinking, "Wow, I'm winning all over the place." So they start looking in other areas, and that's the key. We need to look in other areas, but most importantly, we need to look at areas that consistently buy to win fast and build our war chest. You can make a lot of money with nuts and bolts. I'm not kidding you because they're just always going to keep coming. And then you have those blockers, they don't really care. So they don't look at the smaller ones. Those small ones, guess what they do? They turn into $250,000 contracts, not all at once, but they turn into IDIQs. So they can turn into a 4-year contract. They can of the same item that you will be supplying, or they could turn into just a 1-year contract where they just buy off of it. I see that all the time. So to me, that's very impressive when you guys do that. So how did you get to that? Like, how did that happen to that person? Because they have all those bids in that same category. The system recognizes this person is dependable. One of the reasons they've gotten so hard on us about with government contracting, giving us the 3rd degree and the 4th degree is because there are a lot of people that get in and they mess up. They don't know what they're doing. Or people just mess up and they don't deliver because they don't have the support. They feel scared or they just didn't know they could win. That's why I tell people, oh, you can win, but it's what you do afterwards. I'm not saying they'll kick you out because you can mess up packaging a lot. Some of my superstars, they messed up a lot, but they are doing 500,000, 700,000, and they are only in for a year. So it can be done, but they give us time to make corrections. I made mistakes with DLA. I didn't know what I was doing either. And they didn't kick me out, and they sure still expected me to deliver. Fortunately for me, I was early. She let me deliver early. I was 3 months early. They didn't need it for something like 100 and something days, but I did it early on purpose. So low competition, just sitting there. That 732 bid amount that we looked at, that is in one category. That's low competition, no bid, just sitting there. Government has so many millions of those items like that. So I already told you about this. You know, there's a list that you have to, choose the products. Looks like this is bigger. It has, we put the NACE codes on this side and the FSC codes that the government gave us. So we just cleaned it up a little bit because it's going to help you if you're just setting up your SAM. You need to know, but you're not going to know everything the first time. You may have to come back later and add more to your SAM, which is okay. All right, so I've already kind of talked to you about the fastest way. I don't need to spend a lot of time here, but the fastest way really is to identify these massive areas where nobody is taking care of the customer, which is the contracting officer. Nobody's taking care of them. Nobody's helping them. So if you see them just sitting there, now some of them can be difficult because maybe they were made by a Honeywell, but Honeywell is not helping you to figure out who the subcontractors were, because the subcontractors a lot of times made those products. That's when sometimes people will come to me and say, what are some of the ideas that I could use, or how can we brainstorm to figure out how do I break this code? These codes are breakable. But I would tell that person, like a lot of times they'll ask me, there's thousands and thousands sitting there. What do I need to do? Well, first of all, don't get stuck. I think that you need to continue to work on that category, but make sure that you're still doing other things to win. So maybe this category of 2930 is intriguing you, but it's hard. You found only one supplier and he doesn't have what you need him to have. So you need to do a little more work. What I would say to a person like that is you still need to choose the easier ones and continue to win. By the time you figure this out, set aside time. I have my more difficult products that I set aside for. So for instance, I'll still keep doing my work on specific types of contracts, but I will have on my spreadsheet some information for a specific type of code or FSC code or NAICS code or product that I really want to work on. So I set aside time to work on that, but I got to keep winning. That's how you guys need to think. Okay. So low competition, no competition contracts, you can win quickly. And then the no bid contracts in the program, and Stacy may know this, she probably hasn't looked at it much yet, that we give you DLA's list of items that they say, we need these items. Nobody's bidding on these. They're desperate for those items. It's like thousands of those, in addition to the other thousands that are already on the list. These are items, as a matter of fact, you know who won off of those? His first win, Richard did, because he wanted to follow in my footsteps. So he found some bolts on the list and they were difficult to find. He found them within a couple weeks. It's just some things you never know why it's sitting there. It's not always complicated. It really is not. Like in Richard's case, so now sometimes the manufacturer stopped making it. Sometimes it may be something that you might want to consider having made down the line. You just never know. You need to be paying attention to these things. Okay, and then longevity. I mentioned that already, but I want you to find things that you are going to consistently see. You know how sometimes people, when we're in business, we feel like, oh my God, I don't have, any activity in this area. I don't have any new customers in this area. Some of you have businesses already where you have a hard time or you have to spend a lot of time getting new customers. This is not that. This is not like that. So you want to pick areas where you don't have to look for customers. They're just sitting there. They're just sitting there. That's longevity. And they're always sitting there. Bolts, screws, hardware is always like that. Always. So if you want to get your feet wet and you want to start making some money, your first couple of contracts, you might not make a lot. But I tell people, well, don't give it away. I mean, make a few dollars because they get so excited. But then they start realizing, okay, I can go up a little bit. And guess what? When we start making these bolts and we start making other items like I do, our profit margins start to grow. If I have someone make an item like I did with that paint, huge profit margins. I was able to go much lower with the government And this guy, my paint manufacturer, he made all the money he wanted. He was so excited. He was begging me to take that contract or to go for it. We hadn't gotten the contract yet. And I told him, okay, now, because I had him give me some pricing. When he said he could do it, I was like, okay, are you serious about this? Because we could win this. Don't have me do this. He's like, I am so serious. I could keep my whole staff, he said, if you get us that contract. And I did. Because they had turned me down at least 3 times, the government. I kept bidding and I kept asking him, how come I'm not winning? Now, I wasn't expecting the contract to be that big. I just saw a bunch of paint contracts. So I kept bidding in that area. I don't know why paint was just something I wanted to do. It was in the hardware area. She told me it's your labels for the paint. Paint is considered hazardous. I didn't know that. So I thought, oh my God, I got to figure out these labels. How am I going to figure out these labels? She wasn't going to tell me. She wasn't going to, but she wanted me to win. I could tell she wanted me to win. So I figured out the labels. I called OSHA and I asked OSHA to look at my labels. And he did. The guy in Arizona for OSHA, he says, Michelle, your labels look great. All you need to do is add this, this, and this. It was like 3 things. I added those things and then I bid again. And she could not award me the contract until she saw my labels. That's the law. When it's hazardous materials, they have to see your labels first. So I sent her my labels and she said, okay. And I thought, oh my God, I won. But I was not expecting her to give me this huge contract. I was not. 6,000 5-gallon containers of paint. I thought it was just going to be like a few. And because that's what I bid on originally in the past. And it was 6,000 5-gallon containers. I couldn't even believe it. Thank God I knew what I was doing, or so I thought I knew what I was doing. So it worked out, but he and I made a lot of money. He made a lot of money. We had some nice profitability. Now, as you learn and you start winning, you're going to want to do that. You're going to start looking in your community for other businesses, whether it is a big manufacturer or a small manufacturer that wants to partner with you and make your items. When I made the bolts the first time, it was one of my clients whom I had taught government contracting. And he's like, of course, Michelle, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. Well, it was his arena. He does aviation. He's a manufacturer for aviation parts. And I said, are you sure you're making money off of this? He said, yeah, I am. I said, then how come this is so cheap? I said, are these people gouging the government? He said, they probably are. He said, because I'm telling you, I can sell this to you for this amount and I'm winning and you're winning. And I was like, wow, that was when I realized that's why they don't want us in this business, because we changed the game. We expose them every time we get in there and start helping the contracting officers. Okay. So think about longevity when you're looking at these codes. All right. We already talked about how to choose your products. I went through a whole, kit and caboodle with you about that. When I looked at those products with you, all you would do is exactly the same thing I did. Take one of those codes off of the FSC NACE code list and then put it inside DIBS, and you don't need to be logged in to do that, and look to see the activity. If it's not a lot of activity, but you just want to win it anyway, that's fine. But that's not longevity. Let me tell you one other reason why longevity is important. It's also important because you need a supplier that you can consistently work with. You don't want to have to constantly look for different suppliers all the time. You want someone that you can work with for different products. So remember what I said about that 2930. That 2930 had probably 100 different products. But what if you found one supplier that has at least 30 of those products? That's how you do it. That's strategy. And that's doable. That's not unusual. That's how I teach people to do it. And that's how they start winning faster. And that's how they build credit. That's how they get all of these things that they want. Okay, so you see I had this highlighted. I would take this 5910 if I was interested in 5910, and I would go to DIBS and I would put in 5910 and I would get all of these different contracts. These are all different contracts, different products, different contracts, same supplier. Now, it may not look like they're all the same supplier, but a lot of them are. Because one supplier that you use may not show up on some of the other ones. But what if you could find additional suppliers that are not all the same? You could maybe get 2 suppliers out of 25 different approved sources that the government listed. That's how you have to think. So you only have to be very patient in the beginning. Once the ball starts rolling and you've done this once or twice, like find the product, find the supplier, then it becomes a habit. Then you got this product you're working on. Now you want to move on to another product because I'm looking at 5910, so I have 30 bids in here for 5910, but now I want to add 2930. So now I start the process all over again with the supplier. Step 1 and step 2. Okay. This is, some of you have seen this, maybe. I don't know. I think a lot of you guys are new or you haven't really started winning yet if you're in the program, like Stacy was saying. But this is what the hot list looks like. We know my team I have a procurement research team. And what I do is I approve the suppliers that I want them to put out there or to work on. So we might know a supplier, and then we go find a lot of opportunities for some of our suppliers that we know and work on so that you don't have to do it. And when people get stuck, this is what they do, just because they're stuck and they're frustrated. I want to build their confidence. Next thing you know, and on this list, I mean, we can discuss this a little bit more, but we don't need to spend a lot of time here. On this list, there are 25 to 30 different products, sometimes 40. Now, what I'm thinking about doing with the hot list is also taking a situation so that you guys can build your own situation, like that 2930 that we were looking at, or that 59, like here. So I could take this code, this FSC code, and start having my people do some research on who the approved sources are, or see if I already have an approved source that maybe carries some of these products. And that would be a door opener for these difficult areas, because we have some areas that are just sitting there. I want us to get those areas and help the government and help ourselves, make lots of money while we're doing it. We would be heroes. So we're already heroes because we're going out there and the contracting officers are loving us. They're loving us. So it would look like this, but it wouldn't be a lot of different products. It would be one. And what would that do for you? It would provide the longevity for that one product area. Not only one product, but it would be one FSC product category. They're different products, but they're one category, 1 or 2 suppliers. That's my next goal. And then what else does that do? That allows you to get the $250,000 IDIQs for 1 year or for 4 years or 5 years, because you dominate your area. That's how you do that. Okay. So it has so many benefits when you are bidding and you're bidding in the same area. And we've talked about some of this, but I do want to mention D. Some of these products, like I showed you, they have multiple parts. That can be confusing. Multiple parts oftentimes mean different cage codes, which is a good thing because it allows us different places to go and look. Maybe only one of them is a competitor bidding against you, but the other 2 are real sources. That's a good thing. And their product numbers are different. And I can tell you, let me tell you this, who owns the part numbers? The manufacturer does. I didn't know that at first. I only know that because I am a manufacturer. My company assigns the part numbers. I might have a different part number for my company to work with distributors, but I might also give the distributor a different part number. The part numbers go with the manufacturer. The manufacturer owns those part numbers. That's why sometimes they disappear. If the manufacturer stops making a product, you have to tell the contracting officer that product no longer exists. Okay, so that's a good thing. But 90% of the time, you will also know the pricing. This is before you go to step 2. Why will you know the pricing? Because they give it to us. And I'm saying 98% of the time. Really, it's about 99.5% of the time. They tell us what the previous pricing was, but you can't get stuck there because sometimes it's been years and the pricing is going to go up. Some of our people get stuck on that, okay? And then let me see, check the award NSN. Some of this is just me giving you guidance on a couple of things. Like the NSN, you should check. Sometimes if you don't see the pricing on the solicitation down, I'm going to show you a copy of the solicitation again in closing. If you don't see the pricing down at the solicitation, you can do a search on the NSN, right on the DIBS board. You go to that same area where you research the FSC code and you choose NSN, you put in the NSN number, and sometimes it'll bring up the award history. Okay. Why do you need that information? You need that information before you call or contact the suppliers because you want to know what price point you're looking for. Me personally, I know what the price needs to be before I even add on my cost in order for me to make some money. So you need to think about that too. At minimum, you need to know what you're going to look for with pricing before you talk to the supplier, because you might want to negotiate right then and there. So if I know that the price history was just $5 per unit 3 weeks ago, I know that I need to be a little bit lower than that. Well, actually more than a little bit, because $5 was the last award. And this is not an old situation. If it was an old situation at $5, I probably wouldn't be too worried. If the manufacturer or the supplier said, well, that's going to cost you $5 per unit, I might still try to get it down a little bit, but I wouldn't be too worried because it's old, like maybe 10 months old. You handle older items different. You have more room to make a little more money. In some cases, a lot more money, depending on the item. Why is that? Because it's just sitting there. Nobody's helping them. Now, you don't want to gouge the government, but if you have reason to price it higher, then you have to price it higher. And you could still win. Okay. I see I have a question. I do. I'm going to give you guys, you'll have the option. You can get like a discount or you can get, I always give you guys a couple of, like 100 or 2. Or you could get the hot list. You'll have an option of one or the other. Absolutely. We also did something that we've never done before. We've always had a 2-pay plan, but now because we realize that people want to do this, but maybe I remember being like this as an entrepreneur because I could have payroll. When I first started as a business, I had to always think about where is my money going and what's the priority. And I remember things I wanted to do for my own development that I couldn't do many years ago. And I remember thinking, I can't do that right now because cash flow, sometimes, you have a business, sometimes you do have the money, but so what we did was we broke it down into 3 parts. So you could also do the 3-pay plan. We didn't have that before. We're giving a little bit longer. We had the 2-pay plan and people were easily doing it and they're getting in being very successful. But even if I don't believe in inflation, I just think people raise prices, just because that's how it is in this country. But there's a lot going on. People have a lot going on. Businesses are having a hard time right now. Everybody's raising prices all over the place. So yes, to answer your question. So you'll have a few options, for how you want to do it. Because I told you I have this goal. I really want to get another 100 people. And because we just don't understand, this is good business for all of us. And I do. I want to, Richard said this, Jessica said this. I want to create a bunch of us that are doing this quietly, but out loud. And the government needs us. They really do. And we can make lots of money at it. And some of you can do this even while you have a job. You can keep your job if you need to for a minute. I told Richard, don't leave your corporate job yet. He had to leave now because now he's growing so fast. And, I'm just so proud of him and so many others, but Richard talks, he tells people he doesn't, and Gordon is the same way. So absolutely, Of course, you guys being here with me, you're definitely gonna get benefits from being here with me. Okay, so that's what you need to do is you need to see what you can do to get the pricing, okay? Now, speaking of that, where do we get that from? We get that from right here. This is the solicitation. You don't use this solicitation to bid. The lovely thing about DLA is you don't use the solicitation to bid. You log into Dibs, you go to hit on the quote. Remember that area that I showed you? Let me just go back to it real quick. This right here, where it says quote, you click on that quote, and that's how you bid. You don't need anything else except your pricing and all the work you did. Okay, let me just make sure I'm right in the right spot. Yeah. Okay, so that's where you get the pricing from. Sometimes there's no pricing, but like I said, 99% of the time there's pricing. Okay. All right, let's go to step 2, which is also pretty kind of brief. Step 2 is more about you learning what you need to know before you get to the supplier. And the biggest thing with step 2 is understanding how to vet the supplier. After you do that, you look them up and you figure out, okay, they look safe. I can call them, but you got to know what you're going to say. You're going to ask them, and that's of course in the training, but you're going to ask them about inventory. You're not just calling to get a price, but yes, you have your price ready before you call them. You need to know what's your drop dead number. What's the most you can pay? Okay, so let them tell you that. So you're calling them to get the pricing information. You won't talk to them about packaging or shipping or anything like that, but you need to consider those things. That's why it's there. You know, if you read in there that you need some special packaging, because every item tells us how it has to be packaged. If it says, you know, some insulated type sealant package, you might want to stay away from that. You know, if it's just saying, you know, 39.51, which is commercial packaging, that's what you want to see in the beginning. Because you don't want to eat into all of your profit. You're probably not going to make that much if you start small. Even if you start big, you still don't want to put a lot of money into packaging. You just want to make sure that packaging is good and that it's going to get there, okay? Not all beat up, and that you're doing it properly, which we do have some videos and some training on that too. We've had to evolve with packaging because it wasn't easy. Okay. But you, in the program, you get what we call a product big pricing template. I give you guys a lot of templates in there that you can just use. Okay. So if you get into a question about something, the template is in there. Or even if it's a document, I have some documents in there. You might be asked about traceability. How do I handle traceability? Things like that. Okay. Now we're almost towards the end. So step 3, I already told you that's very easy. Oh, I went back, but it's right here. I forgot I have a snapshot of it right here. If you are doing, once you find your area, you're bidding on, and as you can see, you know, and if I were to go to this live, it's probably still 400 or 500 sitting there. This area is always busy. This is one of those FSC categories. But you're just going to click on, after you've done everything in step 1, everything in step 2, you got your pricing, you know what you want to add for your, excuse me, for your markup. Once you add to your markup, that's going to be your final price. But you use the bid pricing template, excuse me, to make sure that you're doing right by yourself. Even if you don't mind losing money the first time, you don't want to continue to do that. So you want to understand how you're pricing. And remember, when you decide to work with that contracting officer and also, my throat is getting a little dry, and you decide to work with that supplier, remember to tell that supplier, don't tell them in the beginning, tell them before you start working with them that your client is a federal contract. Why? Because that's going to take some of that money off. So when you get the pricing, you can actually look to see what they're trying to charge you for taxes. That's going to come off. So that could be part of your profit. Okay. They can't charge you for federal government products or products that you're purchasing on behalf of the government. Okay, but all you're gonna do is click on this quote. It's gonna take you into that bid. The bidding process is 15, it's gonna take you an hour the first time because you're gonna look at this document. It's only one page. You're answering specific questions, and of course, in the program, I walk you through it. But after that, it takes you barely 15 to 20 minutes to bid. That's why it's easier for you to have 25 to 30, and the next thing you know, you start winning. Now, some of these people that they have 40 and 50 and 60 bids in their vault, I tell them, be careful because you're going to start winning very quickly. Make sure you have money set aside because you're not going to just win one. They're going to come and they're going to keep coming. So you need to think about that too. So if you don't have a lot of money that you want to invest right now, you want to put aside, so let's say you're doing $10, $20 items or $15 items, that's fine, of course. But do the smaller ones so that you know you don't have to spend more than $200 if you win 5 times, as an example. You guys know what I mean. You need to do the math, okay? You definitely need to be concerned about that in the beginning, depending on the amount of money that you have. Even if you're using a credit card, a lot of people set aside a credit card just for this, which is smart. But then they're asking me, well, how big should I go? Well, you only have $7,500. You don't want to use all the $7,500 for 2 or 3 bids because you're trying to go big. I mean, you could, but then you can't plant a lot of seeds. So there has to be a balance. Okay. But this part is the easiest part, quite frankly. It's very easy, the bidding part. Okay. We're towards the end, so I can answer some questions. How can we get to you as a mentee? So let me say this to you guys. I don't talk about this publicly. I know I need you a little bit more. People that are in the program, and you'll see it when you get in there, there is a mentorship that only DLA people in my program can be in. It is $49 a month. And it's, month to month. You can do it as long as you need it or you don't have to, but it's very valuable. It is actually like a whole nother course. Because you also have time with me live. You have time with me, time with other winners, because the mastermind people, I also have a mastermind program for DLA. They are in that program. And so the mentorship people and the mastermind people get to spend time with me together and separately 4 times a month. So I see each group twice a month. And then sometimes we have meetings together if it's something that everybody needs to train on. But you can't get in unless you are in the program. So that's how you get to spend time with me. Even when I have guest speakers, I'm there, and it was a difficult choice to make, but when I say difficult, I mean, I had to say, I can't coach for outside people anymore. I can only coach and help the people in my community. And that's how I do it. I had to make that sacrifice because, and I think that's better. And it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made because I was spread too thin already. And, I do have people that can help, but sometimes some people only want to talk to me, and sometimes it does require me. My team is good and smart, but they're just learning too. I have a couple of people that only focus on technical, but sometimes they have to come to me. So yeah, that's how you get to be in my circle. Is it Stefan? Is that how you say it, Stefan? How easy is it to become a manufacturer?
Yes. Ye-
Stefan,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, finally, I've been listening to your voice, your convincing voice that has been, I like I like the vibe, the emotion
Oh,
that you,
thank
you know, that
you.
you, that you saying through your voice. It's um, I don't know how I can feel a lot of passion on what you do, and
Yeah.
yeah, and that's yeah, and that's what made me, come to you because there are a lot of thousands of them out there, and I know a lot of folks, that are really good on it. But when I listen to your voice, I'm like, oh, let me follow her. So I'm here
Well, I
now. I
am
mean,
passionate, that I am. That's why I'm
yeah, you
always
are. Trust
available.
me. Yeah, I listen I watch your
I do.
interview with Richard, all those guys,
Oh,
because I
yeah.
found Richard with Eric Coffee.
Yeah.
I just won
Did you
my
win?
first. Yeah, I just won my first contract, but on Sam, I've been in Sam, Sam. Yeah, I'm very new in this business, but the reason why I'm gonna go fast, I'm gonna kill you. I'm telling you, you're gonna be very proud of me.
I'm gonna be
So
very
yeah,
proud
I'm
of
just
you.
yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah, um I'm not been working for long because I decided to go and be my, build my companies and be my boss now. So I it's not easy, but I'm like, okay, I have to do it now. I'm not going back to, working for people and all those stuff.
I know
But
that's right. Yes. Hmm.
yes. Money wise, it's not good, but that's what I'm saying. This is how I'm gonna get that pressure and
Yeah.
everything to, to get into it. It's not easy, but anyway, you're gonna have a chat. We're gonna have time to talk. You can know what
I
I'm
will
talking
be
about
looking for
more.
you. Yes, that's
Yeah,
wonderful, Stefan. But I'm with you. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur when I was 13 years old. Even though I spent some time in corporate, but I just don't believe in making other people rich. I just don't.
that's where I
Um,
am. I'm
And
taking action
we
now.
have family too, don't we? We have generations that we need to
Hmm.
build for, and we really need to get back to that. A lot of us have
Yes,
gotten lost with that. And so that's part of why I'm so passionate because I am you. I really am. We might be in different places, we might be doing different products or different services, but we're all together in this. And that mentorship program and the mastermind, it's the best thing I've ever done, I feel like, because not only did I help people get there, and then I said, now I have to make sure I'm taking care of watching out for these people while I'm doing my other stuff too, because you can't be everything to everybody, but those people that are serious, they'll come. They'll figure
yeah,
it out.
yes, definitely,
And then
definitely.
you have Richard. You'll be surprised. We have a lot more. Richard, I love it. Richard gave me my first, him and Jessica, they were the first to share. A lot of people, Stefan, they wouldn't share, which I don't criticize people for that, but that's important
It
because
is.
it's easy for me to win, or for me to say, I won. Look at me, look at It's not about me. This is way bigger than me. So I didn't like that. And I would tell some of my 8As, they don't have to know they're because some people feel like they're creating competition. No, you're not. In my
Hmm.
community, people talk openly. And I tell
Yes,
them, you don't need to tell your products. You saw me do that on the videos, but they
yes,
tell anyway because they don't live in scarcity. They don't care.
yeah.
They're
I
not
agree.
afraid of competition. They don't believe
Yeah.
in it. So that's how we do in the mentorship program. And it really drives me even more. It does.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and manufacturing, to answer your question, no, it's not easy. I will tell you that because I started from scratch. A lot of research, a lot of work, a lot of, as Gordon says, you kiss a lot of frogs because you have to guide everybody else, Stefan. We're the leaders. And yes, and I've had to tell a lot of my people that I didn't have to do that with Richard because Richard has been in the military. Richard is a natural leader. He is. Some of my other younger proteges, I've had to tell them, you know, there's no time for whining right now. I know the contracting officer should help you, but they're not going to. Snap out of it. You
Yes.
are winning millions of dollars at this point. And this is on the service side. You know the business. You need to guide them. Well, they're not going to ask for the post. You know how when you win in service, Stefan, you have the post award meeting after you win the contract, you're supposed to. A lot of the contracting officers don't do that. And so I had to tell a lot of my proteges, you need to ask for the meeting. Don't don't just wait. If they don't tell you certain things, you have to be the leader. They are not entrepreneurs, they're not business owners, they are employee-minded people. So you have to do the same with the manufacturing. You have to really understand, you don't have to do it, but you have to understand what you're going to need to do, the steps you need to take, or make people tell you, okay, so how are you going to make this paint? Well, we're going to do this, because they don't know that the leadership part, even if they own the business. So for you, what I would say, and this is one of the trainings I am going to do, because I got to get us ready for this conference that I'm planning. It's not been announced, but I have a lot of people in my mentorship and mastermind that they're planning to be manufacturers, but not like me. They're going to get someone to make it for them. That's the smartest way because you don't have to put out all that money.
Okay.
So yeah, that is easier. Is it the challenging part for contract, it's called contract manufacturing. The only challenge for that one is not like starting from scratch. Mine is harder, but the contract manufacturing is you got to vet a lot of people.
Mhm.
I talked to 7 companies, which is not a lot. 7 companies before I found the paint manufacturer. They were all paint manufacturers, but they weren't real manufacturers. They said they manufactured, but only 2 were real manufacturers of actual paint.
Okay.
Okay, so
Did
it's like that. But yeah, you can do it. That
were
the
you Yeah,
mhm.
quick
What-
question. Were you doing a shop inspection?
Shop inspection, what do you mean? Oh, you mean when after we made the item, do we have to?
Like like when you are vetting them, right? You will, ask
No,
okay,
no,
you
you don't
don't
have
okay,
to
you
do
went
all of that, not in the beginning. What you want to do is, let's say you take one of these tech docs. I'm going to show you guys one. Let's say you take one, oh, well, here's one right here. So let's say you can do it without the non-tech docs too. They can just re-engineer products for the non-tech docs. But let's say you take one of these tech docs right here that's on
Okay.
the screen. You would pull down the designs, the specifications, and then you read it. You don't have to understand all of it. You know, I didn't understand a lot of it. I didn't. I'm not a hardware girl. I'm like, what does all this mean?
Yeah,
But
that,
I
that
did
that's
it.
where we're gonna have a big difference because that's my world. I'm the one that was making I'm an engineer, so I was making those technical document design, all those stuff. So it's easy for me to go through all those stuff. So,
Wow, you're gonna
and
do
actually
well.
the bid that I won on the
Mhm.
SAM, I don't know, like last week, and it's on the modified containers, and they have a lot of specs and stuff like you have to understand to discuss and explain to the manufacturer to go through all those stuff. So it
Mhm.
was kind of quite easy. And I used to also source a lot of bolt and those hardware from company I was past, my past experience and stuff like that. So I saw that you asked Richard to start there and he follows you, and I was like, okay. And I was in Sam, and okay, let me tell you how I discovered DLA. I want to tell you the truth. It has been just one week. Last weekend, I was on Sam, right? I was just going through, I just have in my mind, right? Like, okay, let me just see how I can use some of my experience, my design experience and source
Right.
stuff and just, mechanical stuff and just send it quickly. I went on sam.gov. When I was, searching, I saw like DLA. Then like the agency was DLA, right? And then when I click on that, it was like complicated. Like it will not give you more information. It will take me somewhere else. It was actually like a Nico or
It would
Nico or
take you
something.
here, right? Oh,
Yeah,
well, the Navy also has their own site. That's a whole nother story.
yeah. Anyway, it was taking me somewhere. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is my very first time I'm clicking on something on Sam, and it's taking me. It's not giving me the information like any
Right.
other solicitation. I'm like, okay. So trust me. Coincidentally, the same Saturday, last Saturday, I watched a video from Eric Coffey asking, interviewing what's his name? Kante, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then Richard was there, and they were talking about that. I'm like, oh my God, what a coincidence! So they just put everything. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're drawn
oh,
to it. That's the answer.
okay,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's why I'm here. So I've been listening. I've been listening a lot of your videos all this past week. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do. And guess what? This
Yeah.
morning I was working on my email. So and just by coincidence, when I was reading I saw this meeting. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna cancel everything I have now. I'm going to the meeting. I discovered
So
this. I'm like,
you just happened to see this? We invited you though, right?
yeah, because I enroll on your stuff, when I discovered you last week, last weekend, I just went Sunday or Monday. I was just, enrolling and trying to follow you. So that's how I received
Well,
the
you're going
email.
to do quite well, especially if you're not intent. You can do anything, if you are not intimidated by those drawings, because some people have to get used
No,
to it.
I was making it. I'm making it. I'm the one that was making the drawing. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so this is for you. That was the universe. I believe in laws of attraction. I really do. So there's a reason why all of this happened for you. And I look forward to I look forward to you winning. I love when people win. You guys, if you see me on those videos, sometimes I have to calm down because you would think I won instead of them.
yes, I will. That's what that's what I told you, right? I see the level of excitement, the compassion. I'm like, oh my God, she loves that. She loves that,
I
and that's
do.
the
I
vibe.
love it.
Yeah, and that's the vibe I like.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Thank
be
you.
there.
I
Yeah, I'm gonna.
appreciate that.
I just need you. I'm gonna need your help. As anything you do in life, you need a mentor.
Yes.
So to go
Yeah.
fast, I don't want to go through the ups and downs by myself. It's gonna take me so much time, and
Well, it does. It takes a long time. It really does. And thank God I did it for everyone else. You know what I mean?
yes,
Thank God
it took.
you guys are coming behind me, but you're walking in the same footsteps. But it does cut down on the winning time, the learning time, because
eh,
this is how it goes. You start bidding, or once you do steps 1, 2, and 3, you start winning. But while you're winning, you're still learning. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So you
Exactly.
win, you learn, you win, you learn, and you're growing at the same time, and you're
Exactly.
building at the same time. And I think of you're probably like this too, since you know how to read all these things. Everything is like a system for me, even though I'm
Hmm.
not a technical person. I am when it comes to process
Yes.
because I break down, okay, how did this happen? Why did this happen? I don't want that to happen. So what am I
Hmm.
going to do about that, right? To make
Okay.
sure it doesn't happen again. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now we're at the end. You guys have been hanging in here with me. I'm glad you guys are here with me. And you will be able to re-listen to this as you want to. But lastly, so you won. This is where a
Yeah.
lot of people get stuck. Now what do you do? So there are a few things. And this is going to be very brief, but there are a few things you need to consider. All you're going to need to do is, as soon as you get the award, and remember, sometimes, at least for DLA, I shouldn't say DLA, I should say DIBS, because now, Stefan, I don't know if you realize this, but some of those DLAs that you see in SAM, they're not going to come back to DIBS because they're big. You can actually bid on, this is some of my people that are winning a lot.
Hmm.
They're telling me, Michelle, I didn't know that I could just do a regular solicitation with DLA because they're growing so fast. I tell them you need to start looking at the bigger ones that are already 250,000 and more. And those are usually the ones in SAM. But Stefan, sometimes they post the ones that go back to DIBS because they can't find anybody.
Okay.
So sometimes they'll post ones that are under 250,000 in SAM, and then when you click on the link, it comes back to DIBS.
Yes. Okay, let me tell you, that's what just happened right now. I was looking at um there's this solicitation in Sam. As you were
Mhm.
talking right now, I was there, exploring everything, and I found some gasket and all those stuff. When I click on it, it pull me back
To DIBS.
to Dibs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
So that's
let me tell you
correct.
something. Yeah, and let me tell you something. That could turn out to be a very good area because they wouldn't put it on SAM because SAM is 25,000 and more, but DLA, when you read the instructions in DLA DIBS, it tells you most things that are under 250,000 are going to be on the bid board system. That's why they have to lead you back to that. But that could be one of those longevity relationship opportunities I'm talking about. Contract
Oh,
manufacturing. They put it there because a lot of times they're looking for someone that can either make it, or they need consistency. So what you need to do is take that one item and check it out. See if there's a lot of activity with it, even though it's a gasket. You know,
yes.
there could be a
Yes.
lot of activity, not just in that area, but look at the FSC code in
Hmm.
DIBS, just like we did today, to see. Look at the awards for that FSC code or those NSNs. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Before you get involved, and especially since you know what you're doing about reading these specifications, write down the ones you're interested in. You can get in and start winning in other areas, but write down these other ones because that's part of your vision. That's part of your strategy, your growth strategy, because you need one.
Good.
So Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Uh,
Yeah, good to know. Good to
Yeah,
know.
okay. So once you win, they won't always send you a contract via email. They won't always notify you. You need to check your account when you win, your DIBS account. You check in there, you
Oh,
have the award, and then you have to do labeling, right? This
yes.
is easier than I ever knew. I did all my own labeling because I didn't know any better when I did DLA. We now have VSM. It does all the labeling for you, meaning
Okay.
it prints out everything, or I shouldn't say prints it out, but it puts it in the computer, you print it out, and that's what you're going to use. Now, you still have to use your hazardous material labels if your item is considered hazardous, and it will tell you if it's considered hazardous. So this part is easier. I mean, we still have it's a big module because I want you to be able to do it step by step, but it's called the VSM process. So once you win, VSM is triggered. Then you have to go in there and follow certain steps, okay? Then you
Okay.
get your labels. But your labels are printed out, where you are, you print out the labels, but you need to make sure you understand the packaging. Where do you get the packaging from? Remember that solicitation I showed you? It's just full of information. If you go to section B, it tells
Mhm.
you this is commercial packaging, or this is 2073 packaging. 2073 might have a few more things underneath it, but when I say a few more things under it, it might say, you need to use a certain type of plastic to wrap it. You might need to use a certain type of box, but most of the time, the packaging is not as complicated as we used to think, because now we've been able to, I have, me and the community, we've been able to find more information. If it's a special package, somebody has probably already used that package and they know exactly where to get it from, exactly how much it's going to cost. But if you are bidding on an item that's costing you a lot of money with packaging, you might not want to do that item all the time because it's costing too much for you to do that packaging. So you need to look at the packaging in section B when you're choosing your different products, okay?
Cool.
And then shipping is very simple. After you do the labeling and the packaging, shipping is also determined inside the solicitation. There's a lot of stuff in that solicitation. In that solicitation and in the award, it tells you whether or not the government is going to pay for it or whether you are going to pay for it. Origin means the government is going to pay for it. Destination means you are going to pay for it. Okay. Now, should you know that before you bid on that item or that category? Yes, you should, because it could make the difference. Your profitability could be higher if the government is paying for it. So in the beginning, you might just want to use the same FSC categories, but you want to pick. So if we're looking at 2950 or 2930, we want to look to see, is this destination or is this origin? And you can tell just by doing a fine search or looking up in the corner of the solicitation. It'll say FOB destination or FOB origin. Okay. That's very important in the beginning. You want to make sure you're thinking about those things because that could be the difference between you having $25 in profit per item, or not having any profit per item. So the taxes, you don't have to pay taxes on the item. You could avoid shipping costs. So if it's origin, here's another thing. They come pick it up from you, whether it's from your office, whether it's from your house. That's the nice thing about origin.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And the
So,
last, go ahead. You got a
yeah,
question?
quick question. So if I see FOB origin, that means they're gonna come and pick up at the
Yes. Yes.
okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. They're going to come
Wow.
and pick it up. Now, I do suggest that you guys get your own FedEx and your own
Commercial account.
USP, yeah, because sometimes the manufacturers will allow you to use your own account. Because what I learned, again, you guys taught me this, and so then I realized I need to teach everybody this. You guys taught me how these manufacturers and distributors, I should say just distributors in general, how they're charging you so much extra to ship the product to you. Now, in some of our hot lists, with some of our hot list suppliers, we give you suppliers that might be in your local area, so you can just pick it up. Or you don't have any shipping cost at all. That's a whole nother story, but you want to find ways to keep your shipping costs down. Because when I learned that these manufacturers, distributors, and retailers are adding on hundreds of dollars, that's crazy. So you might want to ask them. We do this. If for some of our ingredients and some of our vendors, we tell them we'll use our own account because they might try to charge extra for us to use their shipping. Some of them may not want to do that, but a lot of them will. So you know, where they're trying to charge you $200 or $75 for shipping, and you can get that shipping done for $20, especially if it's not an emergency, that's profitability for you. It may seem small, but it adds up. Okay. And the last two things you want to do is then you've shipped off your item. Now you got to get paid, right? So you have to learn how to go into PIEE or I can't pie, or WAIF, as some of us still call it. Go in there and set up your system so that you can bill the government for that contract. Okay. And the next thing you know, now, if there's something wrong with the package, they'll let you know. That's everybody's biggest fear their first time. But you know, it's going to happen here or there. You're not going to lose any opportunities because you messed up a package. You just have to learn where you made the mistake. Now, you know, of course, we have a bigger area for packaging now because people are so nervous, but most everybody wants to hear my voice before they ship off the first time, or they want some reassurance, but it's not as bad as it sounds or as it feels. What did it feel bad to me in the beginning? Yes, because I was like everybody else. Oh my God, is this right? Are the pallets right? Are the labels right? Of course we feel that way. But it turns out we don't die if we make a mistake. They just tell us, well, the user said that you're missing an item or you didn't package this right. They just send it back and have you fix it. You don't want to do a lot of those, but it doesn't stop you from winning. It does not.